Shabbat Shalom, Yasha'Allah. Shabbat Shalom. Salakia. Dawada Banya Sha'Allah coming out with another episode of bringing out the precepts on this holy Sabbath. First and foremost, I want to give all praise and glory to Abanawa Yahawah, Bahashem, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakar Kadash, true Father's name in ancient Paleo Hebrew, the deliverer and the Savior of Yasha'Allah, who this world ignorantly calls Jesus the Christ. But we all know he's a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Judah. Point blank, period. He's a Hebrew Israelite. Dawada Banya Sha'Allah coming out with another episode of bringing out these precepts on this holy Sabbath, and I'm going to title this lesson, Signs from Heaven Before the Second Coming of the Messiah. Signs from Heaven before the second coming of the Messiah. Because we know throughout the precepts, there's signs throughout the Bible, talk about in the latter days, after the tribulation, so forth and so on. So let's get into it. I'm going to start first in the beginning. That's what Genesis means. I'm going to go to the Book of Genesis, the first chapter, 14th. So I'm going to start at the 13th verse, Genesis 1 and 13. And it reads, "And the day and the morning were the third day." Just to bring it into context, we're up to the third day that the Most High is creating heaven and earth. Okay, Genesis 1 and 14. "And the Most High said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide day from the night. And let there be signs and for seasons and for days and for years." Read it again, Genesis 1 and verse 14. "And the Most High said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from night, and let there be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." Genesis 1 and 15 reads, "And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, and it was so." Genesis 1 and verse 16, "And the Most High made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also." Okay? Genesis 1 and verse 17, "And the Most High set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." Genesis 1 and verse 18, "And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from darkness. And the Most High saw that it was good." Okay, so these precepts in Genesis, that's another. The Most High created a light for the day, a light for the night. We all know it's the sun and the moon. And in verse 14, and it says, "The Most High, let there be light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from night, and let there be for a sign." Let them be for a sign. So we all know that in the latter days, which we are heading right now into Jacob's trouble and the tribulation coming to Babylon the Great, the United Snakes of America, starting with the so-called pestilence as corona. It's a pestilence on the Most High God. That's why it's running rampant throughout the four corners of the earth. Only the Most High can, has the power to judge this world from the four quarters of the earth. Okay, so let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Okay, so point blank, period. These are the signs that we're going to be looking for in the latter days. Okay, let's get a precept. Let's go to the Book of Wisdom of Solomon. This is out of the Apocrypha. For all you unlearned Israelites and all you unlearned, the Apocrypha, which was part of the 1611 King James Bible that these devils took out because of the content that contradicts their so-called agenda. Okay, Wisdom of Solomon out of the Apocrypha. I'm going to go to chapter 7, and I'm going to read from the 17th verse. Yeah, Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7, verse 17 from the Apocrypha. And it reads, "For he has given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operations of the elements." For he has given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of elements. And we all know when you read in the beginning in Genesis, that's when the Most High in 7 days created heaven and earth and all that's within. Okay? For he has given me knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements. Wisdom of Solomon 7 and verse 18. The beginning, which is Genesis, the ending, which is Revelations, and the midst of the times. The alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of seasons. Okay, this is a precept. The Most High set up the sun and the moon for signs throughout all our generations. Okay? Wisdom of Solomon 7 and verse 19. The circuits of the years and the positions of the stars. Okay? So we read in Genesis and in Wisdom of Solomon out of the Apocrypha, the Most High set up the light for the sun for the light of the day and the moon for the night, and also to give us a sign in these latter days. Let's stay in the Apocrypha. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus, which is Sirach. Also out of the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43. And I'm going to start reading from verse... Salakia. I'm going to read from verse 5. This is Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43 and verse 5 out of the King James Apocrypha. And it reads, "Great is Yahawah that made it, and at his commandment runneth hastily." Read it again. Sirach 43 and verse 5. "Great is Yahawah that made it, and his commandment runneth hastily." Sirach 43 and verse 6. "He made the moon also to serve in her season, for a declaration of times and a sign of the world." Read it again. Ecclesiasticus 43 and verse 6, a rock out of the Apocrypha. "He made the moon also to serve in her season, for a declaration of time and a sign of the world." Sirach 43 and verse 7. "From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection." Sirach 43 and verse 8. "The month is called after her, increasingly wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven." Okay, the month is called after her, increasingly wonderful in her changing. We all know the moon's changing to quarter, to half, to so forth and so on, to full moon. So it's talking about the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. Sirach 43 and verse 9. "The beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of Yahawah." Sirach 43 and verse 10. "At the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watches." Read it again. Sirach 43 verse 10. "At the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watches." Sirach 43 verse 11. "Look upon the rainbow and praise him that made it. Very beautiful it is in the brightness thereof. Ecclesiasticus 43 and verse 12, it compasseth the heavens about with a glorious circle, and the hands of the Most High has bent it. Key point about the rainbow, which this wicked world, Babylon the Great, uses it as a gay symbol on their so-called gay Bibles. You see the rainbow, the Most High. That's why the Most High is judging this world for taking his covenant and making something good into evil. But I'm going to stay on topic. Sirach 43 and verse 12. It compasses the heaven about with a glorious circle, and the hands of the Most High have bent it. Sirach 43 and verse 13. And Salakia, by his commandment he maketh the snow to fall a place, and sendeth swiftly the lightnings of his judgment. We all know the Most High uses rain, lightning, tornadoes, cold whirlwinds in the Bible for judgment. Point blank, period. Let's get a precept on that. Staying in the book of Ecclesiasticus, Sirach. Let's just get a precept through the Spirit of the Most High. This is Ecclesiasticus, Sirach 39 and verse 28. And it reads, there be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction they pour out their force, and appease the wrath of him that made them, Salakia, which is Yahawah Shem Yahushai. Okay? They be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. This is the point I want to get. Ecclesiasticus, Sirach 39 and verse 29. Fire, hail, famine, death, all these were created for vengeance. So the Most High, through lightning, storms, snow, rain, it doesn't matter. These are all created for judgment against the earth. Just wanted the Bible, 1 Thessalonians 5 and 21 says, prove all things. Okay? So, again, Ecclesiastes, Sirach 43, and he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of time and a sign of the world. Okay? Let's stay in the Apocrypha. Let's go to the letter of Jeremiah out of the Apocrypha. This is the book of the letter of Jeremiah, first chapter, and I'm going to start at the 60th verse. Letter of Jeremiah 1 and verse 60 reads, for sun, moon, and stars be bright and sent to do their offices are obedient. Letter of Jeremiah 1 and verse 60. For sun, moon, and stars being bright and sent to do their offices are obedient. Obedient to who? To Yahawah B'Shem Mashiach Yahushai, who made them. Letter of Jeremiah 1 and verse 61. In like manner, the lightning, when it breaketh forth, is easy to be seen. And after the same manner, the wind bloweth in every country. Letter of Jeremiah 1 and verse 62. And when the Most High commandeth the clouds to go over the whole world, they do as they are bidden. And when you look up the word bidden, it's commanded. Okay? They do as they are bidden, as they are commanded. Letter of Jeremiah 1 and verse 63. And the fire set above to consume hills and woods doeth as it is commanded. But these are like unto them, neither in show nor power. Okay? So we all know the Most High uses all these spirits for vengeance. And pursuant to first letter of Jeremiah 1 and 60, the sun, moon, and stars being bright and sent to do their offenses are obedient. We all know the Most High created them, and they're commanded under the Most High, point blank, period. Let's go into the book of Joel. Let's see what some of the signs that we're going to see in these latter days before the second coming of the Most High and His only begotten Son, Yahawah Mashiach. Okay, Joel 2, and I'm going to read the 30th verse. Joel 2 and verse 30 reads, "And I will show wonders in the heaven and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke." Joel 2 and verse 30, "And I will show wonders in the heaven and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke." Joel 2 and verse 31, "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of Yahawah come." Read it again. Joel 2 and verse 31, "And the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of Yahawah come." Joel 2 and 32, "And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Yahawah shall be delivered, for in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as Yahawah hath said, and in the remnant whom Yahawah shall call." So he's only talking about to the people that Yahawah and Yahweh Shai shall call by this word, point blank, period. Okay? But the point, verse 31, Joel 2 and 31, "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of Yahawah come." Okay? Signs from heaven before the second coming of the Messiah. Let's get a precept. Let's go to the Book of Acts. The New Testament. The New Testament, Acts 2 and verse 19. Precept upon precept, line upon line. Here a little and there a little. Here a little in the Old Testament and back it up with precepts in the New Testament. This is Acts 2 and verse 19. And it reads, "And I will show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke." Read it again, Acts 2 and verse 19. "And I will show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke." Okay, Acts 2 and verse 20. "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before that great and notable day Yahawah come." Okay, Acts 2 and 12. "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before that great and notable day of Yahawah come." Acts 2 and 21. "And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Yahawah shall be saved." Okay, it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Yahawah shall be saved. This next precept is the point, is the key. And if it reads, this is Acts 2 and 22, "Ye men of Israel." This is only directed to Israel. Point blank, period. Acts 2 and 22, "Ye men of Israel, hear these words. Yahawah Shai of Nazareth, a man approved of the Most High amongst you by miracles and wonders and signs, which the Most High did by him in the midst of you, as ye yourself also know." Point blank, period. "Ye men of Israel." This is only directed to Yasha Allah, the children of the Most High, blacks, Hispanics, native of Indian and Negroid descent. Point blank, period. That here in Babylon the Great brought into bondage and slavery for over 400 years per Baruch 3 and 8 until this day. Point blank, period. This is only directed to the men of Israel. Yasha'Allah. Okay? Let's move on. Let's get another precept. Let's go to Book of Zephaniah. Zephaniah, the first chapter, and I'm going to read from the 14th verse. Zephaniah 1 and verse 14 reads, "The great day of Yahawah is near. It is near, and hasteth greatly. Even the voice of the day of Yahawah, the mighty man shall cry bitterly." Okay, the great day of Yahawah is near. It is near and hasteth greatly. Even the voice of the day of Yahawah, the mighty man shall cry there bitterly. Zephaniah 14 and verse 15. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Okay, I'm going to read it again so you can get a visual. This is Zephaniah 1 and verse 15. And that day is the day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Most High is coming to cast judgment against his whole world, but particularly to Babylon the Great, the United Snakes of America, for the rape, robbery, and murder of his people for over 400 years, and to this day, gunning us down, claiming themselves not guilty, as you see Tamir Rice in these last couple of weeks, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake, they count themselves not guilty. Point blank. That's why all these days, the days of wrath, trouble, distress, wasteness, desolation, darkness, gloominess, clouds of thick darkness. That's the prophesying to the future of Babylon the Great, that with intercontinental ballistic missiles, the Most High is going to judge this world. Point blank, period. Zephaniah 1 and 16, the day of trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. Zephaniah 1 and 17, and I will bring distress upon men, and they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against Yahawah, and their blood shall be poured out as the dust, and their flesh as the dung. Don't have to break that down. It tells you what's coming. Okay? This tells you what's coming. Zephaniah, the first chapter. Day of trouble, distress, wasteness, desolation, day of darkness, gloominess, day of clouds and of thick darkness. Point blank, period. We all know against the high towers, all these so-called Edoms towers, from the east coast to the west, all these skyscrapers. We all know that's Babylon the Great. It's going to be destroyed. Thus saith the Lord. Thus saith the Holy Bible. We give all praise and glory to our Yahawah Ba'Shem Mashiach Yahushai. Zephaniah, let's get a precept. Let's go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 22nd chapter, and I'm going to read from verse 5. Precept upon precept. Isaiah 22 and verse 5 reads, For it is a day of trouble and of threading down and of perplexity by Yahawah thy power of hosts. In the valley of vision, breaking down the walls and of crying to the mountains. I mean, point blank, period. It's going to be a day of trouble, distress, destruction, point blank, period. It's the Most High casting judgment against Babylon the Great, the United Snakes of America, and all these top elites of this wicked world. Okay, bringing out this Maxine and trying to eradicate the people of the Most High. But the Most High, Romans 11, the Most High have never cast away his people. He's always left a small remnant, which is going to be redeemed from this wicked earth. Okay, let's get another precept. Stay on topic. This is Amos 5th chapter. I'm going to start from the 18th verse. Well, I'm going to start at the 17. This is Amos 5 and verse 17. And in all vineyards shall be wailing, for I will pass through thee, saith Yahawah. In all vineyards shall be wailing, for I will pass through thee, saith Yahawah. Amos 5 and verse 18. Woe unto you that desire the day of Yahawah. And we all know what. Look it up in the Blue Letter Bible. Woe, when you see woe in the Bible, means destruction. Okay? Amos 5 and 18. Woe unto you that desire the day of Yahawah. To what end is it for you? The day of Yahawah is darkness and not light. Okay? Read it again. Amos 5 and verse 18. For unto you that desire the day of Yahawah, to what end is it for you? The day of Yahawah is darkness and not light. Point blank, period. Let's get another precept. Isaiah, the 5th chapter. And I'm going to start at the 19th verse. And Isaiah 5th chapter and 19th verse reads, that say, let him make speed and hasteth his work, that we may see it. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. Okay? Isaiah 5 and verse 19. That say, let him make speed and hasten his work. Because so many people here, when is the Most High's coming? When all these decades that pass, when is the Most High's coming? But the Most High, through his precepts, he's long suffering, but it's reached that violence has overtaken this earth. Okay? Isaiah 5 and verse 19, that say, let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it, and let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. Isaiah 5 and verse 20, woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Okay? Point blank, period. Everybody's talking about when is the day going, the Father, the only one that knows is the Father. But you can see from the signs from heaven that we're going to look for before the second coming of the Messiah. He gives us signs for the true biblical Israelites that have the understanding, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of this Bible. It's not given to everybody. The Messiah said it. They have eyes and cannot see, ears and cannot hear, and never come to the understanding of the precepts of the Bible. Point blank, period. Let's go to the New Testament. Let's go to the Book of Luke. 21st chapter and verse 11. Salakia, I just want to see the time. I didn't want to make this. I'm going to have to come up with 2 parts for this sit down, sign from heaven before the second coming of the Messiah. This is Luke 21 and verse 11. And it reads, Salakia. I'm going to read verse 10. Luke 21 and verse 10. And that said he unto them, this is the Messiah speaking in red letters, nations shall rise against nations, and kingdoms against kingdoms. Luke 21 and verse 11. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines, and pestilence, and fearful sight, and great signs there shall be from heaven. Read it again. Luke 21 and verse 11. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines, and pestilence, and fearful sight, and great signs shall there be from heaven. Okay? So we as Israelites have to be able to read and decode this Bible to know by reading the heavens that when the Messiah is ready to crack that sky to redeem his elect out of this Babylon the Great, the United States of America. And we, throughout this devil's news, we know about earthquakes in diverse places, the famines. Look at the lines on these food lines, talking about the beginning of famine. We all know the Most High brought his locusts and all lantern flies and murder hornets and all this to kill the wheat, the grain, and all this of throughout the world, which is the beginning of famine. The pestilence, we know corona, and the Most High sent another strain, which is more deadly and more powerful, all great power to the Most High. And fearful sights. Look at the so-called taking over this Babylon the Great's capital. The devil, divided from the devil, this kingdom will not stand, per the book of Matthew, point blank period. Okay? A kingdom divided within itself will not stand. That's why Babylon the Great is falling right in front of our eyes. I just did a lesson on that. And great signs shall there be from heaven. And that's the whole purpose of this sit down. Signs from heavens before the second coming of the Messiah. Point blank period. Okay, but let's get a timestamp on this. Luke 21 and verse 12. But before all these, before all the famines, pestilence, fierce sights, and the signs from heavens, and earthquakes in diverse places, this is what the verse 12 reads. Luke 21, before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Okay, so we know before these signs from heaven, we know these so-called these devils and these elites of Babylon the Great. The Messiah lets us know here, but before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, deliver you unto the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Okay, that's just to give you a timestamp. Okay, when they start putting us into so-called FEMA camps and locking us down and stopping his word and the famine of the word coming out in Babylon the Great, that you won't see our brothers in the four corners of the earth bringing out this truth in the highways and the byways, on YouTube and Instagram and all these avenues that are used to bring out this word throughout the four corners of the earth. Okay, the Messiah lets us know, Luke 21 and verse 12, but before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, deliver you to the synagogues and into prison, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Point blank period. So before the actual signs and in-depth famine and pestilence, which we see coronas are killing people throughout the earth, these devils are going to start locking us up, the true prophets and servants of the Most High God. This is the Messiah letting us know. So like it, well, let me get one more precept and I'm going to wind this down and I'll come out with part 2. Let's go to the book of Revelations. Book of Revelation, 6th chapter, and I'm going to read the 12th verse. Revelation 6 and 12 reads, and I beheld when he opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Through precepts after precepts, you seeing the signs from heaven before the second coming of the Messiah. I'm going to read it again, Revelation 6 and verse 12. And I beheld when he opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Okay? Revelation 6 and verse 13. And the stars of heaven fell onto the earth, even as the fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Okay, Revelation 6 and 13. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as the fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. So again, throughout all these precepts that are bringing up, you see what's going to happen. We see that before the Messiah makes his second coming, it talks about the sun becoming black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars will be falling onto the earth. Point blank period. Signs from heavens before the second coming of the Messiah. Yahawah, we have to endure to the end. I'm going to come back with part 2 of the sit-down lesson, the Sabbath lesson. With that, I hope everybody stay most high blessed. Shalom.